Welcome to Brothers-In-Flaw Sports. I am your host, Normie. To the side of me over here, we got our other host, Cunyato. And back this week, down below, where he loves being and belongs, Santana,
where I thrive.
where he thrives. Cunyato, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, Normie. How about you guys?
I'm doing pretty good. Just tired, but that's normal. What about you, Santana?
I'm doing well, man. What, you got a lot going on in your life right now, or what's going on?
Just a little bit. Between all that and then doing the normal stuff, it's kicking my tail a little bit. But I'm here and I'm ready to talk some sports.
Hey, we appreciate you pushing through because I don't know if you can tell the title of this episode. It's Who's in Charge. Getting ready to wing it. Getting ready to wing it. This is a bit of an. It's not impromptu in that we're on our scheduled date and close-ish to our scheduled time, but
we're fashionably late.
Yeah, fashionably late.
Albiona's ready. She says, "Woo, sports ball."
That's what I'm talking about, Albiona. I can always count on you.
That's the attitude we need. Oh man. But anyway, so some craziness in the NCAA. If you don't know, I don't know. Most people don't, but there's this like big tournament thing with a bunch of college basketball teams. But there's 4 of them left. And let's see who those 4 are.
I don't think we have to. I think we can bypass this.
We can bypass this?
Yeah, I think we can just skip over this side.
This is actually...
What you got, Santana?
This is actually the perfect environment for a conversation I would like to have. After I'm going to let you go on about your team and being in the Final Four, but then I have a question for you, so go ahead.
Alrighty. Well, we got UConn there. I mean, number 1 overall seed. We were pretty sure they were going to make it here, and the way they've been beating teams, really hasn't been close. No one's came really close to them. Their Elite Eight game, like they dominated Illinois. Dominated. And
they went on a 30-0 run in the second half. 30-0.
It was tied like what, 23-23 at one point? Yep. And then it was 53-23 by the end of
How do you do 30 unanswered points in basketball? I mean, that's tough to do in football, much less basketball. It's incredible.
Yeah.
They seized control there.
And then on this other side, we got, the other number 1 seed, Purdue. Same kind of thing. We either knew they were going to go out in the first round or they were going to make it most of the way. And looks like they have.
They've been notorious.
Those personal brackets looking? I don't want to talk about that part.
I didn't make one this year because I thought that my team might actually do something. And the last time my team actually did something, got to this level, I didn't have a personal bracket. So now it just feels like I missed an opportunity to make a good bracket.
Well, I had Houston winning the whole thing, and I don't think I even had UConn in the Final Four. So, mine was. I lost the first 2 or 3 games, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm done here. But anyway, so UConn is going to play number 4, Alabama. To be honest, I had Alabama losing in the second round in my personal bracket. I'd watched them play towards the end of the season and thought they would be lucky to. I thought the first round was going to be kind of a stretch, but for them to make it this far,
they were coming into the tournament kind of stumbling and bumbling. I think lost 6 of their last 8.
Yep,
including the SEC tournament games. And it's like we talked about last week before the next round of the tournament had happened, Normie. When they're scoring, they can score with anybody.
Yep.
And then they got a contest with North Carolina, a 1 seed, and it was I think that I said North Carolina by 2. I was mostly right, just on the wrong side of it. I did think it was going to be close, but they've done the work to get there, and credit to that team, Nate Oates, and all the people that you don't hear about for them. As soon as I saw Clemson getting through, actually, So North Carolina happened, and then when I saw Clemson won, I was like, man, that's going to be the one. They're gonna go ahead and do the whole thing, like get on to the Final Four, because I think to be an elite team, you don't have to win the whole thing, especially year in year out. But making it to this stage,
Mm-hmm.
in at least some regard, elite. Very few people reach the Final Four. So, congrats to you, Normie. Congrats to Alabama. I'm still pretty bummed about it. I didn't want you guys, but also it was the thing that Auburn had over Alabama in a basketball regard. And now we do not.
At
Okay,
least this year.
Normie, but that's my question to you. Bama makes the Final Four. That kind of takes away the one thing that Auburn had, right? But Auburn's path to the Final Four and how they got there, significantly different, right? Like Auburn still has that path.
Yeah, I believe that year was Kentucky, North Carolina, and Kansas all in our bracket.
And they blew out Kansas and UNC and had to beat Kentucky in overtime. And now, and I really bring that up in jest because just for the rivalry purposes, I got sent a tweet this weekend that said we took the kick 6 and the Final Four from them in the same year, and which made me laugh, and that's a fair point. But in all honesty, just talking about the game in general, if Alabama shoots the way that they've been shooting over the past 3 games, like I know how we feel about UConn, I know how the country feels about UConn, and realistically, UConn should win. But I mean, if you can shoot, you got a puncher's chance, and Bama is doing that. So, and they're not playing like fantastic defense, but they're coming up with stops and turnovers at really, really opportune times, and that's something that reminds me about Auburn's run is the way that just when things had to happen, they were happening, and that seems to be going Alabama's way right now, and that's the type of team that wins an overall championship.
Well, and they are playing a lot better defense, like
for sure, yeah,
compared
certainly
to what they were. Like it's definitely remarkably better.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then one thing they really do have in their favor, because if you look at a lot of these games, like they beat North Carolina by 2, like I mean it was less than 10-point games. These are close games. These games usually go down to the wire. UConn hasn't had that. I mean they've soundly beat these teams. So that's one thing I do think Alabama has going for them is they've played in those crazy games, and they've done that all year. Like had those 2-point wins, the wins in overtime, things like that. They've done that all year. Whereas UConn, it seems like it's pretty much, they've beat up on their teams a lot.
Yeah, no,
they may not have that experience of that, like, seconds left kind of thing of just that type of game.
Yeah, that's experience, or that's championship sports in general. The teams that know how to win the tough ones generally are the ones that can finish it in the end. And I told Kenyatta multiple times, especially once again, he said with Clemson, that he realized like, okay, well, Bama's probably making it to the Final Four. And I was like, buddy, the way that they're shooting the rock right now, it would not shock me if they won the whole damn thing.
You shush your mouth. No. I'm still debating on whether I'm even going to watch this game. I haven't watched an Alabama game all tournament.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's like, and then like, say I don't watch this one. What if they do make it to the championship? Do I just not watch it?
Right.
Like, what do I do now?
Well, I don't know if we talked about it or if Kenyatta talked about it, but my strategy for watching Auburn basketball this year was to not, because
Yeah.
when we didn't work out too great. And then, of course, he and I make a day of it to watch the first game of the tournament. And as soon as Chad Baker Mazara got kicked out, I was like, all right, I can't. I'm not going to look at the screen anymore. But I think just my presence ruined it. So I'm sorry,
Yep.
Auburn family. That's on me.
And Jim Dunaway.
And Jim Dunaway.
Oh man. Dang Jim Dunaway, always screwing up people's stuff. But anyway, we definitely on this last team is definitely this year's Cinderella team. 11 seed NC State. They have just been just going ham lately. Like they've had some close games, but most of the time it looks like they've been winning pretty easily. Like it's not like one of those where they're winning on buzzer beaters every game. Because didn't they win the ACC tournament too, and that was the only reason they got in.
That is a good question. I know
No,
they started off
that
the
was
season
Oregon.
they started off the season like 7 or 8-0 in non-conference play, but then I think they only won half of their games down the stretch once they got into ACC play. And so what they're doing right now is getting hot at the right time. They're kind of the Eli Manning New York Giants.
Worked out for him twice.
Yeah, I mean, so they could be dangerous for all I know. I don't know enough about them. Once again, I haven't watched a single NC State game. I couldn't even name their possibly most famous player right this moment. We weren't live when we were talking about DJ Burns, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, they're getting it done when it counts, and that's why it's called March Madness. I mean,
well, going into the ACC tournament, they had lost 7 of their 9 games, and then went into the ACC tournament and won the tournament, and are now in the Final Four. Like that's talk about turning a season around.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I was looking at last year's tournament. Yeah, I mean, it's about getting hot when it counts.
Yeah. And they are definitely hot. All right. So UConn, Alabama, who you got, Kenyatta?
My brain and what I want to happen.
I was about to go this exact same answer. I can feel
it. Says UConn's going to smack them up. They're a much more balanced team. They've already done it. They are the reigning champions. But my heart and gut and the thing that I don't want to happen is that I think Alabama pulls this thing out. So brain says UConn wins and maybe doesn't like demolish them, but a double-digit type of win, 10 plus points, somewhere in like the 14, 15 point range is what I'd say. But after what's happened now, my gut and heart are actually telling me that Bama's going to pull another one out of their ass somehow.
What are the chances that UConn double dribbles and doesn't get called for it and gets a phantom 3-point free throw? Never mind. Never mind. I'll move on.
I don't know what you're talking about, Santana. When did that happen?
Yeah.
Look,
well, I mean, it is in the rules. You have to let the shooter land.
You can't let us have one nice thing, can you?
I'm telling you that tweet about the whole we took the kick 6 and the Final Four from them the same year. It was so accurate and just harsh. Like just damn it, like we don't have a whole lot. Like, can we just have the things that we like? And
Give us our miracle stuff, okay?
yeah,
right?
that's
You
all.
guys are
That's all we asked
consistently
for.
good.
Yeah. I told my father-in-law, I was like, I swear to God, if you guys come from for equestrian and
Yeah.
And swimming.
swimming and diving, ooh,
Watch out.
oh man, you'd probably have to store all your horses at Auburn anyway. You know, like
No, they probably store them at Livingston if they did.
yeah, fair.
West
Yeah.
Alabama has actually a very huge equestrian, and I think they even have a bull riding team.
Well, why
Sorry,
wouldn't you?
I got recruited by West Alabama in high school, and they always sent the bull. All their little things had like bull riding and stuff on them.
You could have
Like
dual sported.
Yeah, could have.
I
Totally could have. Could have rode a bull for 100 miles. Rode that bull over those mountains.
Screw your 8 seconds. I'll
Yep.
see you 30 minutes.
All right, so Santana, who you got? UConn or Alabama?
Look, I'm kind of like I said. As Kenyatta started talking, I was like, I think he's going to say something very similar. I got to watch the last couple of games from Bama. I think that talk about NC State being hot at the right time. I mean, I know Bama's a 4 seed, but Bama kind of is doing the same thing. They have hit a stride that is
also stumbling down the stretch.
Right, and I feel like that they've just watch. I mean, just watch them, and it's not just like their key guys this game or whatever. I mean, they are everybody's shooting, everybody's scoring, everybody's contributing, and like you said, Normie, that they are playing significantly better defense. And while I'll maintain that they are still not playing fantastic defense, they are, like I said earlier, they are coming up in the clutch at these specific times. And if they can, all they have to do is shoot the way that they have been shooting for the last 3 games for 2 more games. And it would not shock me if they won the whole damn thing. So logically, my brain says UConn wins this. I don't think that it's even a blowout or anything like that. I would say, 7-ish or whatever, logically, and just thinking that in that way, I would say UConn. But realistically, just what I've watched, I'm with Kenyatta. I think Alabama probably pulls it out, and I think that it'll be something like you brought up. It'll be a gritty, have to have it type moment, and Bama will pull up and hit just the most random, super heavily guarded 3-point shot that they can muster and win the game.
And it'll be from somebody that like you don't hear of at all.
Yeah, it'll be it'll just be, that's what I'm saying. Like your starting 5, it'll just be somebody. It's just somebody whoever has the ball at the moment when they need it, it'll go in, because that's what I've seen the last few games. And I don't mean that in like a knock or like it was lucky or stuff. It's like they're just playing the way that you win like this type of team wins championships. Like, and if after the first weekend, I would have said you're crazy if you think Bama's going to make it to the Final Four. And
I would have been right there with you.
Right, and now they're here, and it just watching them. It would not shock me. It would not shock me if they beat UConn. And again, I mean, might be we'll be talking about it next week, obviously, but wouldn't shock me if they won the whole damn thing.
Well, I got my scenarios on this one. I think it's one of 2 things. It's a UConn blowout, like Cunyato was kind of saying. It could be that 14, 15 point, or it's a close Alabama win. I said the same thing for the North Carolina game. I don't know if I said it on here, but I know I've told my buddy at work that, it's either going to be North Carolina's either going to come out and blow them out, or Alabama's going to win close. And I think the same thing is going to happen here.
Well, and I could see that. When do you guys think you could decide for Bama? Because both the Clemson and the UNC game didn't start necessarily like what you would really want those games to start as. I think they were down by 10 at one point to UNC early in the first half, and I think Clemson had them down by 7 or something like that early in the first half. But they just kept doing Bama things, and that's the thing. Like for Nate Oates' offense, you are definitely looking at a live by the sword, die by the sword type of situation. If they start rimming out balls just because, like, if shots just don't or start not falling, that changes completely like the entire trajectory. So, like, what point in the game do you think you would be able to say, okay, this is where this game is going to go for UConn specifically?
I would say midway through the second half, around that 10-minute mark, is if that's when I would say, okay, because you normally, like you said, they have been down, but it's usually that first half, and then the second half is when they come out, and then usually, actually, from the way I've seen it, it's been like the end of the first half going into the second half, where they kind of cut it closer, or maybe even bring it to a tie, and then that second half is when they either keep it close or they get a good lead and then just kind of swap buckets back and forth.
Yeah, specifically in that UNC game, they came out, got kind of punched around a little bit, and then climbed back in, and then got punched around a little bit again, and then like right before the end of the half, they came storming back to put it, close. And then going into the second half, it kind of seemed like, okay, UNC is gonna do UNC stuff now, and then Bama said, nope, it's us. And then once they kind of flipped that switch, then it became really like UNC was keeping up with Bama. I thought, at least when I was watching.
Yeah.
It just felt like, because I'm blanking on UNC's point guard's name, but he comes out and I think went like 0 for 9 from 3, at least early on. He may have finished with more than that, but I remember thinking at one point, like, hey bud,
yeah,
maybe pump the brakes on the perimeter shots. But but that's the thing about shooting in general is that kid could have played this week or whatever and hit all 9 of those shots, and so that's kind of similar with Bama. Like, if Bama comes out and continues to drop down shots the way that they have been, it just, I mean, I agree with you, Norma. You had said that UConn hadn't played as many close games as Bama, and it could either end up being a blowout, but if it's allowed to stay close and Bama's hitting shots, I would just like a random, like that last like little poke out or whatever, they're down by 4, whatever, they get some random turnover, go down, hit a big 3. I could see something crazy like that, to where like we're talking finishing the game for Bama in the final 20 seconds, if not less than that. So I guess I'll watch it, I guess.
I mean, I think football will be on around that time, so you can watch UFL will be on.
I'm planning to get into some UFL, and I'm pretty. What time is that game?
I think it's at
7:49, which is the perfect time.
Yep. Yeah, I don't understand the times, because the other one starts at 5:09. Maybe it's one of those that they claim it starts at 5. Like CBS used to do. You always knew when you had a CBS game, you didn't have to be there at 2:30. The bands would still be on the field at 2:30.
Well, we talk all the time about just the difference between college football and the NFL because of that very, very specific thing.
They are kicking the ball at noon. Like, the ball gets kicked at noon.
It's wild to watch.
The lead up shows go, okay, the game is kicking off now, and then like it cuts, and it's like you're to that game. Ball
like if you're watching like Red Zone, and they've got like whatever games they've got on, and like kicker's foot is literally hitting ball for multiple different teams at the exact same time. It's just very buttoned up. Like, They take, obviously you lose some of the pageantry, which is part of the fun for collegiate sports in many ways, but it's way easier to schedule around.
Yeah, it definitely is. Of course, and it's funny too because it's on a Sunday. Normally, most people don't do anything on Sundays, so you really don't have to like schedule many things around it. But they still do it for us,
Well,
and
and
I do
They keep
appreciate
it
it.
buttoned up. They
And
they
think-
really
Yeah.
do.
That's what I
think about
appreciate about them.
Is
think
that what
about
you
how many
appreciate?
think about how many football fans are speeding from church. You know, like
Yeah, that's
y'all could
true.
slow roll it a little bit at least at the noon games, like at least a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we got the other game with Purdue and NC State. Honestly, I would go NC State in this. Like full on heart, mind, body, all of that. Like they are just playing lights out. Purdue has shown that they can be beaten. Um, at least in the regular season. They did beat Tennessee pretty handily, but Tennessee was a very beatable team this year. Um, so yeah, I got to go with NC State in this one.
I think it'd be an extremely fun national championship. As much as I would hate it to see Bama and NC State when you are like both teams face off against the one seed,
Yeah,
and the one seed that are both one seeds that walk their way into this position.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, fuck it. If I'm gonna go with Bama and the other side, then yeah, let's go NC State on this side too. I'll be more excited to watch it.
I'm torn on this one. First off, I have no clue what NC State does well or about any of their players. So
basketball, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is what they're doing. But Purdue and Matt Painter, the head coach, they have consistently been a top 1, 2, 3 seed for the last like almost a decade, at least the last 5 or 6 years. But they've also been consistently a bracket buster because every time you think that it's their year is where they just shit the bed.
Yep.
And like this is his first Final Four in 17 years, 355 and 164, 355 wins, 164 losses, 5 Sweet 16s, 3 Big 10 regular season championships, multiple Big 10 tournament titles, an Elite Eight, international gold medal. Like this guy has accolades for forever, but this is the thing that he cannot get over. So a deep tournament run, Final Four, his first one. I don't know. I once again, I know more about Purdue. I know more kind of how they. I've watched a little bit of Purdue basketball at least. I think Purdue wins the game, but it wouldn't shock me if that bug that like he's been dealing with for these last multiple years gets him yet again. Like you are getting an 11 seed. I think we can say is a Cinderella. An 11 seed.
Oh
Like you're getting a fairly easy path. That easy once again to get to like the next stage. And then, whether it be Bama or UConn, that's a 1 and a 4 seed, highly rated. But so this is like your time to take advantage. So I think Purdue wins, but it wouldn't shock me if something crazy happens. NC State pulls the upset, and yet again, the same narrative that Purdue and Painter have been having to deal with is like, you can't do it when it matters.
yeah.
It's like regular season records, all the in season and this, that, or the other accolades like are off the charts. But once you go dancing, that's what counts.
And once
But
you go
also,
dancing, you can't go prancing, as they say. You know,
yeah,
people
They
people
do
say that.
say that.
people do
Yeah.
say it.
Mhm.
What people?
They're out there. They say it.
They're there. They say it.
Yeah. Maybe if you would look more into stuff that people say, you'd know. But it's out there.
Y'all need
Of
to watch
course.
Norseman. But speaking of NC State, DJ Burns is giving big men hope all over the globe right now. This dude goes out there, and he is not a small build. He's not a small boy. Yeah, he's a pretty big dude, and I love it. I love everything about it. The only other thing I think I may like a little more was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I was so disappointed he did not make it. That Indiana State did not make it into the tournament.
Yeah,
They're playing for
Oh,
the
yeah.
NIT tournament.
they almost should have made it just for the storyline of that guy alone.
Well,
Just to,
well, considering they bumped them to put in Virginia, who went like what was it 9 minutes without scoring in their game.
Yep.
It was something crazy like that, and I wanted to see him in there. And actually, it's funny if you Google search Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Hold on. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So you Google search Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and what comes up right next to him? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Oh,
That was
man.
the best one. He had quite a few nicknames throughout the season, but he is a hell of a player, and I guess
Just missed opportunity.
we were that close. Hey, but there's another pretty legendary player out there who the round mound of rebound, the breadbasket boy.
The round mound of rebound.
The Winn-Dixie beef man. I think Charles Barkley had that nickname.
Well, as long as he stays away, yeah, as long as he gets an Uber from the bar, we'll be fine. All he had to do was call a cab, and he'd probably be the governor right now. Had he called a cab that night, he'd probably be the governor.
that's something we could get into is professional athletes and their lack of ability to not drive themselves around.
Yeah. I hate driving. Like
$100,000 a year. Like you're making $1 million. That's 1/10 of it, and then somebody would sign up. It was like,
oh yeah,
$100,000 a year. I'll drive you wherever you want, whenever
Yep.
you want.
I'll pay you. Actually, I'll pay you 70, full benefits and retirement.
Yeah.
If I were making like $35,000 as a professional like fun thing, like something like doing this or being a professional athlete, if I was making no money doing it, I would still hire somebody to drive me around so I didn't jeopardize the fact that I was getting to do something fun as shit for a living.
Or just be smart enough to be like, you know what? I'm just going to drink at home. Hey, everybody, just come to my house.
Look, and this most recent thing with Rashid Rice,
Yeah,
they were racing. Like, guys, you're millionaires. Go to a track. You can literally rent a track.
Yeah, you can afford to get on Barber Motorsports.
I am not judging you for like, oh, I have this really freaking cool car. I want to go real fast in it. No judgment. Do that all you want on a freaking track, man. Like, just I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously not these guys that do this, but it seems easy to avoid for me.
Yeah, it definitely does. Oh man! But speaking of the NFL, we can start talking about the NFL. LB Honest says the Ricky Bobby syndrome.
I mean, legit. I
Yeah.
don't know what the issue is and why it seems like once a year, maybe once every 2 years, an athlete just. I mean, we had Ruggs not too long ago, and now
Mhm.
I haven't even heard the latest on Rashee Rice as far as what's going on with that. But just the fact that it happens so often. I think Kellen Winslow Jr. had a motorcycle wreck, and it seemed like maybe a couple weeks later, Ben Roethlisberger had a motorcycle wreck, and
Yeah.
just just like guys, just all
Well,
the DUIs. Ty Law, God, it's one of my favorite stories, and I don't know if y'all have heard it, but Ty Law gets pulled over, gets out of his car, says, "You can't catch me. I'm a professional athlete," and then runs off into the night. It's like, bro, you can't hide. You're one of
Yeah.
the best players in the NFL. You can't.
Yeah, I
you
think
can't
I
just,
think they know you. Well,
yeah.
and they
They
had
know
your
at least
car
know where to
there.
find him. He runs
Yeah.
off into the
got
night, and it's
your-
like, okay, well, you got a game Sunday, bud. So we'll know where
You
to
got
get
your
you.
car. You're very
Yeah.
recognizable. Car's registered in your name. And we have a police database to find your house.
Yeah, I wish Cody was listening to this show because that was something that he and I laughed about a lot when that happened.
Can't touch me, I'm the gingerbread man.
That's just the same energy. The same energy. Can't catch me. I'm a professional athlete. It's like, yeah, dude. I mean, also, I don't know that you're really known for your speed, so like maybe they can. I don't know. But I don't know. Just call an Uber, dude. Like you have so much. I don't know, and I understand. I like driving too, and if I had something cool to drive, I'd probably want to drive it fast. But I hope that I would be in my mind enough to take it to barbers or wherever. Like if you have money, you can just rent track time. That's a thing that happens.
Hell, any one of us can take our car to the drag strip, right? Yeah. They do it
Yeah.
like every
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday night in the summer.
Yeah, just there are
And
ways
that's
to.
us. We could do that. Like,
We
so
could do
you
it.
can do it. Definitely. You could take yours out to that one right here in Birmingham
Yeah.
and beat the crap out of everybody.
Yeah. No, I'll just jeopardize this once in a lifetime for.
Cause a 6 vehicle.
Yeah.
The
Crash.
good news on that
cause
one
people to get
is
hurt
Yeah.
other people. Love it.
no fatalities, and from what I've heard, no like life-threatening injuries. But yes, people got hurt. Obviously, a lot of property damage, and then everybody who was involved from the what is allegedly professional athlete side of it all bailed.
Scattered.
Like,
Yeah.
Look,
Which I don't actually blame. Like it's one thing for Ty Law to be like staring at a cop and be like, "Can't catch me," and then like jet. It's another thing to be like, "Okay, you know what? The consequences of fleeing the scene, I will deal with. They can't get me with anything if I am here." I understand where like that I even get, but like just wasn't there? I have not kept up with it or haven't gotten back to it, but there's rumors about like bag of money and guns. Did that either of you hear about that?
I hadn't heard about that part yet, but I also have not been keeping up with it. So
Yeah, I just read. I mean, I think I may have even sent it to our group text where I was just like, can we just get professional athletes? If I were an NFL team, like I would hire drivers for everybody. Like y'all
They've
never
got the money to do it.
shit,
and they're
yeah.
protecting their asset, and they can put that in their contracts. Like, hey, we provide you transportation anywhere you need to go. You will be provided a private driver with a vehicle,
whatever you want to do. I don't care.
And
you
they will
stay out
be
all night.
They were at your beck and call 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yep, and you just and they'll drive fast for you if you want them to on a track.
Yep.
It seems so simple. It seems so simple. Now it's something that I'll probably never experience, like having this, priceless car and feeling invincible
Lamborghini.
I don't know. It's something I'll never understand. I won't be able to connect to, and I don't, no judgment to these. Again, Rashee Rice is significantly like he's a kid still, and made a bad decision, and now you went from being next year's number 1 receiver at Kansas City to now your future's up in the air because you made a silly decision based around a vehicle. You know, when guess what? You get pulled over, or your driver gets pulled over, or whatever, and you're coked out and drinking, 30 beers in the back seat.
Slap on the
You're
wrist.
right. You're still, nobody's hurt, and you're still. You may spend the night in jail. You may spend a couple nights in jail, but you're still the number one receiver at the Kansas City Chiefs next season. And now we don't know. And
with maybe a 1-game suspension.
yeah, one to four, and then you come back and you get like the majority.
The 4 would be you had to you're on camera arguing with the officer and almost assaulting the officer.
Right? Yeah. If you
that's
just
the 4 game.
If the cop just happens to flashlight into the back seat and you're back there like.
Yeah. And you can see it clearly on the body cam.
Yeah.
Then you'll get the 4, but more than likely, maybe the 1, if that.
It was crazy to me, and I hate to bring it up because it really is just super sad. The Ruggs situation, and I mean, it's sad for him. Obviously, even sadder for the people who paid, or the person and Doggo's his people too, who had to pay an even greater price. It's that just happened because of a similar situation where you felt like 170 miles an hour is the way to travel just because you could.
Yeah.
While
It
drunk.
just happened.
Well, and I think I said this the other day, and I don't know if I said it to you guys or what, but the NFL Rookie Symposium is one of those. It's a big. All the rookies come, like everybody that got drafted. You're in the NFL now. You come and you sit and you listen to basically life lessons. You listen to people talk about how they wasted their money. You listen to people talk about how they wasted their time. You listen to people talk about how they got in trouble, this, that, and the other.
Or got scammed or
invested poorly or this, that, or the other. They talk about how to be on camera and this, that, or the other. You're coming into a giant organization. And I think, obviously I've never been to one because I had the injuries in high school and whatever. Yeah. That's the only thing that kept me out of it.
Would have gone.
And they just, if I just
would have gone pro.
It would have gone pro 1,000%. But from my understanding, I feel like the NFL does a good job of bringing in specific speakers and structuring the whole situation well to where all of the things that we could think about would be a problem get addressed. And I can't imagine that. Again, I brought up Kellen Winslow and Big Ben earlier. So I mean, this stuff has been that's what I'm saying. I feel like I hear something about a vehicular incident with whether it's DUI or wreck or speeding or whatever it is. I feel like I've been hearing about it once or twice every year, every 2 years for, I don't know, 20 years at this point. So there's no way that the symposium that the NFL puts on for the rookies would not focus on that detail, right? There's no way that they're not talking about, hey, don't. You got the vroom vrooms? Don't. Need for speed? Not.
Do you want to continue making money so you can continue to afford?
Do you want to play?
Don't vroom.
Right. Do you want to play sports ball, or do you want to drive fast? Those are your basic options because you're going to get in trouble. And
if you wanted to drive fast, there's this place in Alabama called Talladega, and you can go experience how it is to drive fast all on your own.
Yeah.
We'll pay for you if you get the itch.
Even if you get away from.
Go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
Even if you get away from the vehicular part of it, how many people get injured, tearing it, why can I not think of his name? Pierre Paul blowing his hand off with fireworks. There's been a few that I've heard on trampoline accidents, a few on snowboarding and
boogie boarding and
basketball,
inner tubing, getting pulled behind boats.
And it's okay, at least that's not endangering other people, but is it worth it for you in this moment in time. Now, if you're like, you've had an 8, hell, you've had a 5, 6 year long career. You've made good money. You're off your rookie deal. You're into whatever. You're at least established enough to where people have wanted to keep you around into the NFL that long. But and then hell, if you're in your 30s and that's just something you decide. In fact, Big Ben's, I can't remember when it was, but it's like, all right, well, motorcycling is what makes you feel free. That's fine. But it is kind of one of those things, like, you got to lock it down. Like, if this is dangerous, this will cost you money and possibly a very promising career forever. It takes
My
that.
only thing on that one is they also see the guys at the end of their careers. Look at Jason Kelsey. Like, if you watch that Kelsey documentary, like, he's like hobbling around. Like, he can barely. It looks like he can barely move.
Yeah, trying
Like
to play with his
like he's
daughters.
always
It's rough.
hurting. Like, and you just at that point, it's like you're like, I'm not getting on that damn inner tube and having you pull me behind a sea-doo. You kidding? I'm
true.
not getting on the sea-doo. I'm gonna sit up here because I'm hurting just sitting on this pier. So
true.
I do kind of understand that. Like, plus they're young. They find, and there's a lot of these guys that they never had that opportunity growing up, and now they got the money. They can go do stuff like that. Now, the car stuff, yes, like, there's alternatives. Like, we have an alternative. Go to the drag strip in Birmingham or wherever. Do it there. Like, but
Yeah, I agree. Like,
like
it's
water
not
skiing, like
it's not the
motorcycles.
same. It's not in the same
Yeah.
vein by any means, because once again, the other things that were listening, those don't hurt anybody,
Yeah.
and you're only young once. So I agree with you on that, Normie. Like, and it would be tough to pass up that kind of stuff with possibly newfound money.
You also-
I mean, you think
You
you look at a
also
guy
are-
like Najee Harris. He grew up in a homeless shelter, basically. Do you
Well, and
think he
also-
went and did all that stuff?
Well, and also think about how we all felt when we were 18 to 24
Oh yeah.
Invincible.
and invincible.
Yep.
Like, it really wasn't even until just not too long ago that I was like, you know what, maybe I'm not as invincible as I think I am. I can't imagine being these guys who are at their peak physical condition at all times. And
I was about to just to run 3 mile at the end of my running just 3 miles today. I had ice on my legs,
just 3 miles.
and I'll be sore tomorrow. Like,
Kenyatta, he just ran 3 miles today.
Oh.
That's all he ran.
Well, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put a check mark for humble brag down.
bragging camp is going well, by the way. It was a great investment. Thank you, guys.
But no, completely understand exactly. Like, he and I were talking yesterday, day before. Like, my knee feels wonky. Like,
Yeah.
does it hurt? No. Does it, like, what's it doing? I don't know. It just doesn't feel like my knees normally feel. Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's off.
it's off, and I remember being, I'm 34 now, 24, could do whatever I wanted. And I can't imagine being these guys who are, not only
Machines.
they're machines physically, and they're rich beyond belief, and they're young, and like you said, Normie, that a lot of them are coming from not anything, and now they have everything.
Mhm.
And again, though, that the rookie meeting that the NFL has every year, again, that is like kind of the point of that, though, to be like, hey, like, pay attention. I know what you are going to want to do,
Yeah.
but don't do it.
And don't sit there and think like you got this. Like, you don't need to listen.
Yeah,
You need to listen.
you need to listen. You need to pay attention. And there are so
Here
many,
are many examples why.
like like many examples of, for all of it, for vehicular incidents, the losing all the money, like all of, like, there are tales as old as time at this point, as far as the NFL is concerned. And so that's what, bringing back just the vehicular and the Rashee Rice thing was like, bud, did you not listen last year? Like, I'm sure somebody said, hey, bud, don't buy a fast car, and if you do, don't drive it fast. Like,
Yeah.
and it's easy for us to laugh and stuff about this, but like some of this has been extremely tragic. Talking about the Ruggs thing,
Yeah.
and you know, it's just wild to me that this would be so like, you know, what was Ruggs like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something
Think
like
about
that.
3
So it wasn't that long ago, you
because
know, and
it was his like second year in the league, I think,
yeah,
and I
second,
think it
second or
was
third.
Devontae Smith's first year. So it'd have been
Mm.
21. No, 20. No,
I
21.
mean,
It'd have been 21.
it can happen. It can happen like that. And not only like, okay, so in Rashee Rice, yes, a lot of property damage, and you hurt people. But once again, from what I had read and heard, and obviously these people probably have the people who got hurt and wrecked their cars and all that have a different opinion on it. At least it ended well.
Better,
But
It
you
ended
Better.
better,
yeah.
better, not well, better. But you've got a shining example of the consequence within the last 5 years, and it's not, might not be you.
Might not be you, probably won't be you, but it definitely could be you.
Yeah.
Well, and it might not be you that you know that perishes. Could be somebody else.
Yeah, like the impact on it could impact your career, but I mean specifically with the Ruggs situation, like yeah, it ruined his life, but I mean it took a life, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, man. It's like
Horrifically took a life. Like
yeah,
horrifically.
yeah, terribly, and just you know, and for and we're or we are who cares about us, but luckily for the Rice situation, it wasn't as tragic as it definitely could have been, but just for it to continuously be like I said, I mean, since
In a
I've
very
been
similar scenario where like they're racing these souped up cars that can go 200 plus miles an hour. It's like, you guys
well, it was also
aren't
just
watching the
recently.
news?
Is it Jalen Carter out of Georgia, right?
He
I
was out of
believe.
Georgia for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that had the traffic incident where he was racing and one of his teammates passed because of it, and I mean that was literally 2 or 3
Yep.
years ago,
Yep.
Yeah.
and
I forgot about that one.
right, I mean, and that's even closer to the Ruggs thing, and now this one, like it's just guys, quit it, and I know it's again they are young, they are invincible, they are rich. They're probably having the funnest of times. I don't know how many times I've gotten behind the wheel that I shouldn't have, or gone somewhere that I shouldn't have, or done or stayed up later than I should have, or whatever the case may be. Like I know that I have played those invincible level games, but they're playing it at a much higher level than I ever could think of. But just
The
when you just
prizes
think
are a lot
about
more stupider.
absolutely, like well, and even the ones that are the same, like
Well,
I, you
the
know.
what's to lose is so much higher.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, but
Right.
the biggest thing to lose is always the same for no matter who you are doing this type of
Agreed.
stuff.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And then,
Agreed with that.
but these guys, you know. So I mean, all I'm trying to say is that I don't want to come across as like attacking on these dudes. It's so crazy to me that this happens so often. You know, like it seems like something that I get an update from Bleacher Report on regularly, and it's just insane for it to be that way.
Mm-mm. Let's talk of
Something fun.
let's
Move
move
on to
transition on to some
let's talk
we
about
got
fun
better
stuck
stuff.
on something
topics.
weird here, guys. Something NFL related, big huge news. If you guys want to stick on to the NFL, the Texans might be legit.
May have the best receiving core in the league right now.
I it would be hard to
Yep.
argue against that.
I'd love to play that game if you're interested in doing that. We can do that real quick.
Okay. I mean,
Well,
NFC
yeah, go ahead.
NFC West, the Rams got Puka and Cooper, but they don't have another guy like that. They got two guys who play like number ones. Your team's got the Niners have Debo, and although I've seen a lot of trade packages getting thrown around for Ayuk, but for right now, currently,
we'll talk about that closer to draft time. But yeah, Ayuk and Debo and Kittle and Juwan Jennings, which I think would be.
Or no, we'll just take tight ends out of it right now. But
you have to go to your third guy, and if your third guy is the tight end,
no, you're just wanting to rub it in everybody's face that the Niners are super talented.
What about running backs? Should we consider running backs?
No, we shouldn't.
Okay.
But yeah, Juwan Jennings is that kind of dude. He is great. And then
Seattle with DK, Lockett.
Oh, actually, Seattle's
Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, with Jackson Smith and Jigba, maybe, but not yet.
Okay, I'm gonna mark them down as our initial argument.
Yeah, so far that's the closest, and then for the Cardinals,
nobody.
Yeah,
Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe.
And go to the north. The Vikings have Jefferson and Addison, but that's basically where that list ends for me.
Hawkinson.
No, that's a tight end.
Tight end.
Third guy. Okay. All right.
Go to the Lions. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown and I can't remember who that cat who came on was.
They've got a few. They got a few
really good young pieces.
Reynolds, Williams,
definitely.
Oh yeah.
And
Jameson,
Sam Laporta.
Could you put Gibbs in there as well? I mean, you could put Gibbs in there as well.
It's a running back.
He lines up like and plays like a receiver a lot. Trust me, I saw a whole year with him. He could play receiver if he wanted to.
Christian McCaffrey too, Kenyatta. If you didn't
catch
that,
no. You guys are not understanding the assignments.
The Bears
the position next to position is not WR. Those don't count for this conversation.
What about the ones that are like?
It expands the conversation way too broadly.
What about if the ones that are like where are, which is WR, the tight ends?
No.
Okay. Anyway, the Bears, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet.
I don't even feel like.
No, this is fun.
They'll probably draft one too, I think, and not high, but I think that the Bears will. In fact, there's been some noise about some of their. I mean, they might draft one. I don't know.
We've already talked on this show about how irritated I am for Justin Fields about what the Bears are doing.
Yeah, now that this situation is their situation,
just
now all the weapons are there.
You had Justin Fields, and then you got Justin. Whatever.
And you could have drafted another good one, or even got you a good defensive player, number 1 overall.
That's the thing. Keep Justin Fields. You have 2 top 10 picks, specifically the number 1 pick. You trade that pick back into where you probably are still in the top 10, so you still maintain top 10 pick. Plus whatever you got for the trade. You have Justin Fields. Now you've added Keenan Allen. You just saw what he did with DJ Moore. I know Kent hates tight ends all of a sudden for whatever reason, but Cole Kmet is still there. You add whichever running back that they added between Sanders and Swift.
DeAndre Swift.
They got Swift, Herbert, Homer, Johnson.
Yeah, and you can add offensive line help. Joe Alt is a immediate upgrade. Also, something that the Bears have done is upgraded offensive line in the offseason. They've done all this shit, and they just said, all right, Justin, adios,
deuces,
my friend. Yeah. And just God, I mean, I promise you guys, I like Caleb Williams, and we'll talk about quarterbacks and stuff as we get closer, and especially when we do our draft shows. I like Caleb Williams a lot, but there's just nothing about him that makes me think he is going to be an immediate upgrade over Justin Fields. Maybe in 5 years, but who's to say? Did y'all watch Justin Fields? I mean, Jesus! Like,
We're getting off track. We're getting off
I'm
track.
sorry.
I agree
Okay,
with you.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
And
Yeah,
then,
we're talking
the
wide
Packers,
receivers, okay?
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
Romeo Dobbs, Christian.
Yeah, don't just move on from the Packers. They don't.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't
And then go on to the NFC East.
Eagles have a good trio with
a
AJ
great
and
tandem.
Devontae and Dallas Goddard. sorry.
He's not sorry.
He's not sorry. He's not
not
sorry.
He's having a good time.
And then Dallas, obviously you got oh my goodness, why am I blanking on
CeeDee Lamb and
CeeDee Lamb
and Brandon Cooks. Now they are losing Michael Gallup. They do have a tight end worth mentioning, but I won't mention him. It seems like that's been a touchy issue for you for whatever reason.
The Commanders have a good duo. I don't know who their third is.
I think it's
Jahan Dotson and
De'Ami Brown. Is he their third guy from UNC?
Yeah, De'Ami Brown.
Yeah,
he's
that
on
is
there.
it.
So I don't know. He
Could blossom into something like that.
That's what I was about to say. Is I like what they have with Scary Terry and Dotson,
especially since it looks like they're going to get Jaden Daniels
and Zach Ertz.
They do have Zach Ertz. Should we mark them down?
Yeah.
Or are we still hating on the tight end thing, or should I mark them down for the tight?
Well, I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. too.
Oh my God!
They do have.
He can line up a wide receiver.
He can catch ball. I've seen him do it. Do you want me to mark him down, Kenyatta, or do you want to just stick with Seattle right now? I'll just stick with Seattle. You seem perturbed.
Giants.
Don't even
nobody.
Just move on.
Darius Slayton's been their number one, and as an Auburn fan, I pull for him, and great for the guy. And if this ever gets any traction, don't want backlash to knock Darius Slayton, but that should not be your number one wide receiver.
Well, did Jalen Hyatt ever do anything last year?
They were not using him enough, I don't think. Okay. I think that he got not enough, and not necessarily blaming Giants coaches or whatever. I didn't watch enough Giants football to know that he was getting done wrong or anything like that. It's just he wasn't on the field a whole lot, which could be his problem. I don't know if he's not getting the playbook or whatever the situation is, but
yeah,
I do think that they like him there. From the reports that I heard last year, that they liked him and like what he brings to the table, but nothing so far. Nothing, damn sure not anything worth mentioning during this particular conversation.
And then
Seattle.
Go down to the South.
Falcons.
You get Olave. Oh, actually, the Falcons. Okay, all right.
No. We're not putting tight ends in this.
Make an exception.
No, we're not putting tight ends in this list. And running backs. He would that team
would have, and running backs. Yeah,
you'd have to make an exception for both.
Okay, all right, okay. So not the Falcons, although, yeah, okay. You're right. That's only fair.
But to give the Falcons their props, I do love what they've accumulated so far between Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I think that they're missing. I mean, and now with Kirk there, like I could see the Falcons like making a pretty significant impact, especially in a division the way that the NFC South is.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that could flop easily, and it wouldn't shock me if all they were missing was a Kirk Cousins level of consistency.
On a quiet one in the South with Tampa Bay, Mike Evans has quietly been a Hall of Fame type of career so far.
Yeah, and I think that he's starting to get a lot more love than what he has gotten. I think that he
Yeah.
is starting to get his propers now, because he is that good. I mean, has he ever had a season less than 1,000 yards? Like the dude is that good, and he's
He
not
has
played
not.
with other
He's,
than
he's never had a season without 1,000. Oh no, yeah, this past season wasn't it?
yeah. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know. Didn't
Like I think to get into the playoffs, he's like sitting at like 989, and then he himself was like, if it's not the play for me, like let's not force it.
well, and I think that he's big Larry Fitzgerald. Like he's been quietly super consistent, quietly crazy good. He's played with some really good quarterbacks. He's played with some really marginal quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say quarterbacks for Mike Evans specifically, he played with Tom Brady for a couple of years, and then his marginal quarterbacks are Jameis, and then I think that Baker is going to be good, going forward. But and then Chris Godwin,
Yeah.
yeah, those are a great top two, and I think that this conversation changes drastically if you go to top two. But right now we're looking at who do you Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. They do
I
have
mean,
they do have Schultz at tight end. If we want
yeah,
to make it a tight if we
Dalton
want to make it a
Schultz
tight end conversation.
If
Also,
you-
Joe
if
Mixon
you-
is a fantastic
If you
receiver.
do
Yeah,
want to
back.
do
he's-
that,
If
that
we do
only
want to
loads their barrel. That only makes them better. Like,
well, again, if we did do that, then I think San Francisco starts to put and this isn't even bias. It's just, can you say that Diggs is better than whoever you would call San Francisco's number one? Yeah, I think so. Can you say that Nico Collins is? No, I don't necessarily think so. Can you say that Tank Dell is better than
Juwan Jennings,
yeah, and I don't necessarily think
third
so.
option.
And then you're tied in, like you clearly win with Kittle and you clearly win with McCaffrey in that argument. But
It's not this argument, or not even
that's
argument. This
not the argument. That's not this argument. We're not, we don't like tight ends anymore or whatever, I guess.
Mm.
And then
You can just
Panthers,
blast this off right here.
AFC West. Our Chiefs aren't even in the conversation. They
No, especially
possibly
now.
are losing their best wide receiver.
Saints.
Olave, and then whoever.
Did they finally get rid of
Yeah,
Michael
he's
Thomas?
free. I think that he's a free agent, like unsigned free agent. No one's giving
I
him
think-
that many looks.
Yeah, I think that we'll hear more about him once the draft comes and goes.
I agree with that.
Mm.
Maybe somebody wants to fill a spot with the guy who has barely played football for 3 years. I don't know. And I hope he plays football again because, man, at the top of his game, he was a great. I mean, if he could have played consistently the way that he played for a few years, I mean, we're talking a greatest of all time. And obviously, two wildly different situations, but he kind of reminds me of Josh Gordon. Gordon's was off the field issues. Williams is not Williams.
Thomas.
Thomas is he just can't stay healthy,
Yeah.
and just injuries have completely derailed his career, which is sad because he's amazing. I mean, he was that good, but you just it's a roll of the dice sometimes.
Yep.
And then
AFC.
yeah, AFC West once again. Go ahead and take the Chiefs off the table.
The only one that would have been able to compete would be Los Angeles, and they let go of both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen this year.
Yeah, if you're talking about
So-
number one, Vegas has Devontae, but yeah, agreed. So we can just go ahead and head to the north and
Ravens.
yeah, Baltimore's done some interesting stuff.
Yeah, but they just lost. Like Zay Flowers is great, and Rashad Bateman had a decent year last year, but they just lost Odell Beckham Jr. again. So
Did he
Mark
really
Andrews,
contribute
Mike
much?
Andrews, and Isaiah Likely are both really good. Kenyatta,
They are both very good.
yeah,
They are both amazing.
yeah,
Very specifically Andrews, but they both are yes. But, okay, so let's go ahead and move on past that. Go to Pittsburgh. It's not there. I mean, I can go ahead and tell you. We'll look
yeah.
at it. But
George Pickens. I feel like they lost Deontay Johnson.
yeah,
He just went to
Deontay
Carolina.
Johnson.
Yeah. Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson. We like Van Jefferson around here.
Big fan.
Uh,
Big fan.
Pat Fryermuth. Sorry, not to piss you off, but Pat Fryermuth is a legit tight end in this league right now.
Pat Fryermuth has been a legit tight end in this league for a decade.
He's listed as a running back here.
First off, you're gonna go ahead,
Patterson. You
Kenyatta.
gotta add Patterson to that.
Kenyatta.
That's gotta because he plays like 5 positions. Like,
I think that.
But they got him listed as a running back on their roster.
I actually think that he's done enough over his career to like.
Atlanta had him listed as
like it would be like a
specific
P
position.
with a
like
minus.
Atlanta
positionless.
Yeah, I mean that because Atlanta legit had like they called it like an X or something, or I don't know what position they wanted him to be or what they called it, but they on their depth chart had a position that was not running back or receiver that he was listed as.
I loved what they did with him. I love that he got kind of his time in the sun and whatnot. Now, obviously, is he like a top tier receiver? No. Is he one of my favorite players?
And does he
100%.
Does he impact this conversation? No, but real quick though, Najee Harris does catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. Are we still excluding running? Okay. All right, on to the next one.
Missing the Browns in the North and the Bengals
and Cincy, which they're about to lose Tyler Boyd and Higgins. Otherwise, that would have been up there for me.
That would have probably been ahead of Seattle, but yes, it does look like they're about to lose both of those guys. So
Boyd is actually a free agent, and then Higgins is pushing for a trade. They may end up retaining Higgins. I don't know who's playing tight end right now. Kenyatta, if you're wondering.
We can find out.
Let's find out. We need to look at it. We need to figure it out.
Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki. What do you feel about that, Kenyatta? Does he count?
He's a very good tight end. And no tight ends count.
Okay. I'm not sure I'm understanding your game, but we'll keep playing. I don't think that the Browns have really anything major going.
I mean, you got Cooper, obviously, who's
I feel like they added somebody. Oh, Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, they added Jerry Jeudy. Okay, if
Elijah Moore comes on.
Okay, this is what I'm about to say. And I mean, I know we're ignoring tight ends for whatever reason, but Njoku has some special times. Amari has been the dude. Amari's had a really, really good career. Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore are both sitting on a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody, we all know what Jerry Jeudy did in college. We all know what Elijah Moore did in college. And neither of them are sitting in a position of like having accomplished anything. But if they were to put together just this season, like this upcoming season, if they were to put together if they reach their potential, that trio, I think, could match up with what we're talking about here. I won't mark them down because they haven't done it yet, but I could see where those names could end up being something significant.
I agree with you, especially just based on the potential of them coming out of college and whatnot. Although they would have to take both of them massive leaps forward in production level.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Like pretty massive leaps.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm not even like. I'm just saying like.
But I can see what you're saying. I agree.
Yeah, those names look good together. Is what I'm getting at. And again, David Njoku has been a pretty good tight end for the.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe Myles Garrett maybe hop out there and do something.
That motherfucker could.
Yeah,
I mean, he could.
He's real good at sports. Real good
Yeah.
at sports.
It wouldn't shock me if Myles Garrett got some tight end time.
Don't
at
even
one
click on the
point in his
Bills.
career.
Yeah,
They don't even have Gabe Davis, and I like Gabe Davis, and I'm not.
I did like
Davis, but
Hill and Waddle. They can go toe to toe with anybody's 1 and 2, but
and they've got some really good like.
love Johnny Smith. Johnny
yeah.
Smith is a fun tight end.
And Mostert's pretty good too.
I do like Raheem Mostert.
Yes, he is.
And A-Chain. I
Mhm.
mean,
And what A-Chain actually does anyway doesn't.
Jeff
Stop
Wilson
it.
Jr. is a pretty decent receiver out of the backfield. He did some things for San Francisco for a while.
Barrios actually is a really good third option. I would put them pretty high on
Braxton.
the list if we're talking about
Braxton Berrios.
Barrios.
No,
they
I
would
love-
be high. If we're talking about like 3 like just wide receivers, they would be pretty high up there just because they do have a lot of wide receivers.
Listen. I like Braxton Berrios, but I know they would not be high for 3.
I mean, as we're going through it, we're not finding a ton of depth in a lot of these teams. I mean,
We're finding.
when I say high,
we're not
top
finding
10,
anybody.
I'm not saying like top 3. I'm not saying they're challenging what the Texans just did.
Okay, well, when we get done with this, Normie, let's go back through it. And now we're trying to find people better than Miami.
Yeah,
Bills,
New
Patriots.
England,
And nobody on New England.
don't even worry about looking New England up.
The Jets are sitting on. Who'd they add? They just added somebody, didn't they?
Yeah,
Garrett Wilson, Mike
Garrett
Williams. Yeah, see,
but
I mean,
Mike Williams
Alan
already has the
Lazard.
Q. Already has the Q.
that's not even from a current injury. That's just because
That's just
the
like
internet.
that's how he plays.
Yeah, ESPN just knows. Like we don't know. Is he completely healthy? I'm sure that he's saying he is, but no.
If he was completely healthy and if Lazard played the way that he plays sometimes all the time, that is a dangerous trio. However, it's Garrett Wilson, and then hopefully Mike Williams can possibly stay on the field, and Lazard will make big plays sometimes, and sometimes not.
If I'm calling plays for the Jets, I'm handing it off to Breece Hall.
Agreed.
More often than I'm trying to rely on Mike Williams. Now, again, if Mike Williams stays healthy, Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams on opposite sides of each other is
Agreed. If it's a duo thing,
Yeah.
that whole different conversation. But we're talking about a trio. Non-tight end, non-running back, menage a trois.
Conklin's not bad.
He's not
record.
bad.
Or I'm not even going to try and say that last name.
Why can't you?
That's all the East, right? So now we're into the South. I don't know much about the Colts.
Michael Pittman, they re-signed Michael Pittman, I know.
And then they've got a young guy, Josh Downs, who emerged pretty big.
And we all like Alec Pierce, and Kenyatta, I'm sorry, buddy, but I don't even know who Kylan Granson is. I know Mo Alley Cox.
Jonathan Taylor can definitely catch
Jonathan, if you pitch it out to Jonathan Taylor, a little swing route or something like that, I don't know if y'all want to count that. I haven't really been paying attention to what the rules of this game are, but if we wanted to count running backs and tight ends,
I feel like I couldn't have made them clearer. But no, they're not gonna compete. The Jags aren't. They're not either. Although they got Gabe Davis now.
Look, and realistically, does it compete with what we're talking about?
No, it's very solid though.
It does not compete at all. But Christian Kirk and what Christian Kirk has done since he broke the receiver market a couple years ago, I like Gabe Davis. It didn't seem like Bills people loved Gabe Davis as much. Allegedly, and I think San Francisco has balked at this since, but allegedly, Jacksonville tried to trade for Brandon Ayuk, and San Francisco asked in return their first round pick and Zay Jones. And
that seems fairly fair. I think that you guys would be possibly on the losing end of that. Zay Jones is very good, but
Zay Jones would. I think that we would lose unless what we did with that first pick. I don't know where Jacksonville's picking.
That would mean everything. That would mean everything.
I would want to replace Brandon Ayuk. Like Zay Jones would not make me feel okay about spending that first round pick on somebody else other than one of the top receivers.
I agree with that.
But again, I think San Francisco came out and said that was bullshit anyway. So that may not have even been a thing. But if you told me that I'm starting a franchise with Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback, ETN as my running back, and then my top three receivers are Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, and Zay Jones, and then Kenyatta, I don't want to piss you off, but Evan Ingram is a really good receiving option. Like if you told me that that's what I was looking at,
I could win games with that line.
Right, I would be okay to at least start that situation.
Jacksonville has the 17th overall pick.
Okay.
So if we were to end up with that pick, we're looking at somewhere like a Brian Thomas Jr. or somebody like that. We're not going to get a Dunze or my favorite receiver in the draft, Malik Neighbors. But if you told me you're going to give up, see, that's the thing is like I wouldn't have wanted Zay Jones in that situation. Like our receiver room is it's not overly deep, but I like what we have there. So I don't really know what having Zay Jones and then drafting a guy, because that's what I would want. If you're going to give up Ayuk, I want like that level of receiver back. And not to say that any of the rookies would be what Ayuk has been, top 180 receiver or whatever. So yeah, no, I mean, if I couldn't have Brian Thomas Jr., like anyway, this is null and void because it's not a real thing, but just thinking that I wouldn't have wanted to gain Zay Jones and draft a receiver, but I also wouldn't have wanted to give up Ayuk without drafting a receiver. So the whole
it's going to be up to management to try and figure that out.
Well, last I heard, they were not close. If that makes you feel any more confident, I think that they're going to get him signed. I don't think that you allow. I mean, Purdy has said as much that Ayuk is his like guy. Like they have a connection. He wants to throw it to Brandon. They literally before the Super Bowl, I forgot what interview he was in, but they said it's 3rd and long. You have to have this completion. Who you throwing to? And he's like, oh man, I could throw it to any of my guys, but I think that if I had to pick a play, it'd be Ayuk in some in-breaking route. Which in my brain, I was like, well, yeah, dude. Like if you've watched any 49er film, you're probably looking for Ayuk on a dig or a post. And
when anyway, basically in all your major statistical categories in the top 5 as a wide receiver this year, he's not going to his flowers
except for targets. That's the thing is he had like super low targets and then he was high in everything else.
Yeah.
Similarly to the way that people got on Brock about whatever issues they had with him is like, yeah, he's not throwing it as much as a lot of quarterbacks, but he's still throwing it for as many yards and as many touchdowns and a high completion percentage. Like just that's another thing. We'll get closer to the draft and we'll talk about all of this stuff. Because I could go for ages as the disrespect or ages on the disrespect that San Francisco has gotten.
We've got just one more to do with the Titans, and I think that we can go ahead and say that ain't gonna be it.
Mm-mm.
So, no, I can't think of a trio.
Hey man, but on paper again, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Treylon Burks. If Burks can get his shit together, and Calvin Ridley continues to perform how he has, and then yes, Normie, Tony Pollard is a fantastic receiving back. So is Tajay Spears.
Yeah.
And
And
Aquanko is an amazing
Aquanko.
tight end. Oh, not amazing, but he's
Yeah.
very, very good. Very, very solid. But
All right, so the only one that I listed down out of all of that to even argue was Seattle if we're just going top 3 receivers. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like what Nico Collins has put on tape for 2 consecutive years, I feel like what Tank Dell did last year. And now, I mean, we know who Stephon Diggs is. Like, I don't know. I don't think that you can put Seattle over it. So there's
no, I
really,
don't think it's close. I don't
yeah.
think it's close. I mean,
All right,
that's
do it
most
again, but let's
dangerous.
talk about tight ends now.
I don't think we have that kind of time. I don't think our viewers want to even watch that. All
Who's here?
One
Viewers.
of them. You are that's for the fan to decide.
Yay. So, if y'all didn't know, so the Bills did trade Stephon Diggs to the Texans. I looked at what they traded, like what the trade was.
I think it was a second round.
It was a
second.
second round and a 5th round.
On the 7th round. Yeah, the
Okay.
Texans got a 5th and a 7th.
So the Bills will receive a 2025 second round, a 24 6th round, and a 25 5th round. No.
Okay, 5 and 6.
And a 25 5th round pick to Houston along with Diggs.
I just can't understand how. I mean, which actually kind of scares me for the Texans, because is he that much of a headache to where the Bills, who are one of the, like, if not the, like, they're obviously the Chiefs are the top dog in the AFC. But if you got to pick a second team, generally you can go with the Bills pretty easily, and for them to just be like, all right, you're a headache. Get out of here. We're done with you.
Especially with the fact that they just let go a pretty solid number 2 receiver in Gabe Davis. Now, and the issue with the Bills were also like Josh Allen still needs more weapons. And now what have we done?
Nary a weapon.
Right. Like, who are we throwing to now? I did read something that made it seem a little more logical, that it had to do with kind of money and production. And I don't know what article I was looking at, but I'll send it to you guys if I think about it. I also saw that, or Bleacher Report told me, like, almost right before we signed on, that the Bills nixed a Chiefs trade. Like, the Chiefs were like, hey, we'll take him. And the Chiefs were like, no, go fuck yourself. We're not going to give you no. You're already our issue. We're not going to give you our best receiver. Which I may think, I actually kind of think that kind of screws them in Houston too. You send your bet, like, you just add firepower to a team that is up and coming. Like, you may not get your opportunity at this point, Chiefs or Bills fans, because now, like, the team has gone backwards as far as who Josh Allen is throwing to. And also, Josh Allen was not this Josh Allen before Steph Diggs got there.
Nope. That's where he started his upcome.
And look, I don't think that, like, without Diggs, Allen will be nothing or anything like that. But, like, it was a big deal to have that level of receiver come in. So I don't know what the next step is for the Bills. Where do the Bills pick, Normie? If you can find that real quick.
They pick
Later, I know, but
because
28th.
once again,
28th.
Like they're a top dog.
They're and have
Or
remained.
were.
Well, I think they'll look to improve specifically that receiving core. I mean, you've basically stripped it down now. You allowed Gabe Davis to leave in free agency and traded away Steph Diggs. And
speaking about a Michael Thomas type person out there,
right? And I think that's probably where you're gonna land. And from what I've seen, I've only watched the Jaden Daniels tape, but the receivers at LSU stood out to me during that tape. And Thomas, like I think that guy's gonna like he's legit. Like you could replace
He's
a
very
number
legit,
one
but do you
guy.
think that he'll fall to 28?
I don't know, man. I mean, I've seen mock drafts that have had as many as nine or more receivers go in the first round, which is insane.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've seen as high as double digits. I've seen like tens before.
which is wild to me because I don't know. I mean, we talk a lot about value when it comes to draft stuff, and where I mean the draft is deep at receiver. It seems, hence the reasoning for people sending a bunch into the first round. I mean, I saw Lad McConkey go into the Chiefs at 32 the other day, and I thought, really, like. Look, and nothing against that kid. Like, I think that he's solid, but
That kid is a grown ass man. He's been playing there for forever.
he's a kid. He's a kid to me still, I'm sure. But
Hunter Renfro 2.0.
oh, man, no, he ain't. Like,
No,
that,
they don't play.
as far as time experience at Georgia and yeah, just snaps taken at his respective team, then sure. But that look, Lad's got it. Like I know that he's got it. I'm just saying, like if you have an option between him and Xavier Worthy, you know, like at 32, and not necessarily. I haven't watched receiver tape. I don't know exactly how I rank everybody, but it seems early. I think that that's somebody that could really impact your team in the third, fourth round. So not really necessary at the last pick in the first round. But I feel that way about a lot of receivers. Again, it's generally a deep class deep group, and then with this class specifically, it's for sure deep. Once you get past Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, and again, Malik Neighbors is the truth. When we get into draft talk, like I am going to slob that dude's knob because I think that dude is real. Like Marvin Harrison is the shit, and I think that everybody or the consensus is that he sits at the top of the class. But Malik Neighbors is real, man. Like that guy is everywhere. And I'll look at receiver tape before we talk draft stuff, but to find who I really once you get past the top three, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, those once you get past those three, I think there's a slight drop off. I think people like Thomas Jr. and the other kid from Texas, Kenyatta, Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think that there are other like you can get value in the first round still after the top three. It's just I don't know that you necessarily need to take a receiver after the top three in the first round. I'm currently not an NFL GM, if you haven't noticed, but that's just some opinions that I have because I think that if you are the Bills now, I think that you would piss a lot of people off if you didn't take whoever's available at 28 or trade up for one of the guys if you think that you can. And you know how the drafts go, like once a position starts rolling off the board, then it's going to roll off the board and that's going to cause people to make moves.
Oh, it's a wildfire.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I think that now that you have if Gabe Davis was still there, I think that you would be, and I'm not even saying this as like I think this highly of Gabe Davis. It's just if he was still there, somebody that you knew was going to catch touchdown passes from Josh Allen because he has done it. I think that the urgency would be significantly less. But now that you've let Gabe Davis walk and then you traded Steph Diggs and you're sitting there, other than, sorry, Kenyatta, the two tight ends that you've got running around out there that everybody seems to like.
I guess
I think that you have to take a receiver first now. And I don't know if the value for what you get at receiver at 28 is any different than what you would get at like the next opportunity in the second round or so.
We shall see.
Yeah. In less than a month. When is it? The 25th?
I didn't see that they had Curtis Samuel. I don't think that I got
do have
that one.
Curtis Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I also
and
like Andy Isabella. I don't know how long he's been there, but
Samuel's been a solid, quiet number one for a long time over there in Denver. But Kurt Samuel,
the not I don't think you're thinking about the same guy.
I was
It
gonna
might
say
not
I've
be.
never heard of Andy Isabella until today. Like,
He God, I forgot where he played
I
it.
said Curtis Samuel.
As far as in Isabella goes, Normie, he was at Arizona. I don't remember UMass. He's a speedster. He's a quick guy. Curtis Samuel came out of Ohio State,
yeah, I know Curtis Samuel.
played at Carolina, and played at Washington last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not thinking about the same guy.
Also, though, just if you're looking at just this roster and thinking who could catch these balls, Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox are both really good tight ends.
They are. They are both that.
Oh man. Well, didn't San Francisco have a fullback too that can catch the ball?
Yes, Kyle Juszczyk is very good at catching the football. He plays a lot of positions for San Francisco. Kenyatta, where are we at on how we're ranking the fullback position? We're not.
He's like the last one left.
They have one. Reggie Gillum.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Reggie.
Don't forget about Reggie Gillum. I tell you all the time, like, Reggie Gillum's out there, and you're like, yeah. So don't forget that.
He had one reception for 3 yards last year. Like,
Hey,
I mean, come on.
That's more yards than any of the three of us have got.
Yeah.
So I feel
Juszczyk's like the last fullback left in the league, man.
No, I like who's the giant dude from Baltimore? If we hadn't just been talking about it.
Patrick Richard.
Yes. Yeah. 6'3", 305. You're gonna tell him he doesn't matter, Kenyatta? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna tell him he's an offensive lineman.
He had 5 receptions for 52 yards and a touchdown.
Okay.
We may
need to revisit. We may
hope
revisit.
that he never sees this stream, and I never meet him out in public if he does.
We're going to Baltimore, and we're gonna go eat at Jimmy's Seafood. We're gonna meet him, and I'm gonna be like, this guy.
Coletto? I mean, he's 6'3", 237.
Oh, I don't want to meet any of them out in public.
He has no
disparage
stats.
their names, but I also know that watching, like, the Shanahan system is the only one that I can think of that consistently uses Juszczyk the way that they use him. Now, it looks like Ricard kind of plays a similar role, although 307, goodness gracious, that's a big boy. But he does everything.
Juice went to Harvard, right?
Yeah.
Weird that you would be mad at fullbacks.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at him. It's a dying position. That's a fact.
Yeah. Dying people don't go to Harvard. So
How old is he before you click off of that one, Norman?
32.
Yeah. What did we say the other day? We said 35, I think, when we were talking.
Yeah, I think we said 35. So
yeah.
32. He's still got some life left in the legs.
I mean, I just know we don't have that much longer, and I think that he's one of the most integral pieces of our offense.
I agree.
The dude does so much. Like I think you and I talked about it the other day. I think when we were talking about his, look at this catch. Like that's just
catch was insane.
Like he just also Brock doing Brock things was great, but that guy does so much. And at some point, it was rumored that we might be letting him walk this offseason. And I think I told you, Kenyatta, that it would shock me if Kyle let that guy out of the building. It was the first free agent signing that he made when he got the job at San Francisco. And then what he does for our offense, whether it's blocking, receiving, he can line up anywhere. That's the thing, is like George is our number one tight end. Juszczyk plays like basically everything else in between. Like
Well,
if you watch the offense, George and Juice are the ones that move like the most when it comes to around the line of scrimmage type stuff. And
he's in his own specific way, Cordero Patterson, like a positionless player. Like
yeah,
you can call him a fullback
But
because
the
of like
kinda
the tight end duties and the blocking and
the
all
kind
that
of
kind of stuff
opposite
that he does.
end, whereas
Exactly, he
Patterson
wings
gets
towards.
the stats and
Mhm.
gets all that. Juszczyk does more of the the
Well,
thankless task.
and if you go back to when he first signed with San Francisco and what his stats looked like over the early part of his career in San Francisco versus what they look like now, it's drastically different, because then he had to be a major role player in the stat gaining position. And now he is definitely more of a like blocker,
Hmm.
like solely. And that just goes to speak to how good Debo and obviously Christian and there's a lot of other guys that touch the ball and do a lot more with it now. But when he first got there, I mean, I think that Kenyatta, I've said this to you before. Kyle Shanahan had Marquise Goodwin, who I love as a human and loved at Texas, and he was speaking of Bills receivers, he had him at almost 1,000 yards, and that he is not an 1,000 yard type of receiver. Like that's what Kyle Shanahan's offense can get that out of people. But that's who we're talking about. Our number one weapon was when Kyle took over. And so just think about what Juszczyk had to carry as far as offensive stats and points and so on and so forth. Now you look around, it's like, well, obviously everybody else on the field would touch the ball before our fullback would touch the ball. But then in that Lions game, like you see, I mean, just put the tape on. Just put the tape on. If you don't know about Juszczyk, just put the tape on. That's all I can say. I can sit here and
Yeah, no, I got nothing but respect for Kyle Juszczyk, and he also seems like a cool, down to earth guy. But like, it is like you guys will both give me that is a position that is fading in the NFL. Like a true fullback basically doesn't exist anymore. Juszczyk is of a dying breed.
it's one of the things that scares me about the way the football is, because Kyle relies on this particular guy, like this piece.
Yeah.
He relies on that so much in his offense, and I think that he has been trying to draft like his replacement for the last 5 years, and just there hadn't been anybody.
Chicken.
Charlie Warner, tight end out of Georgia, when he got drafted, I remember reading an article that was like, "This is the guy that Kyle wants to try and
take over that role."
And we're losing both Ross Dwelly, who has been around for a while, and Charlie Warner this year. So I imagine that San Francisco in the draft will pick fullback, tight end type guys, trying to replace exactly what we're losing. As far as, I mean, we're trying again. Juszczyk is that dude, and it'll matter when he's not there, and I'm scared of that.
But the good news for him, whenever he does choose to leave the game of football, or the Niners axe him or whatever, his wife's clothing company is really taking off. Taylor Swift will do that for you.
And how sweet is it that everything that, like, he's a professional football player on a extremely popular football team, and now not only a popular football team, but a really good football team. And he's taking the time out of his day to everything that his wife puts out. He's commenting on, like, yeah, check out this, just promoting his wife the whole time. I just think it's adorable and sweet, and I love it.
And it's great business sense.
And it's smart, and it's wise.
I'm sure it is coming from a place of love.
Yeah,
but it also is, You got
I think
your
what we
audience,
just
my
learned
audience. Let's.
is that Normie doesn't love love.
Sounds like Norm does.
Yep.
Okay, all right,
What's
finding
good
out a
for
lot of
old-
stuff this episode.
What's
Y'all don't love
good-
tight ends or running backs, and Normie hates love. So
No,
Who hurt
completely
you?
kidding. Completely kidding. No, obviously, yes, you're right, Normie. That could only benefit him if it takes off. But I do think it comes from the heart for him, or at least I hope. I don't know. Doesn't matter. It either does or doesn't. I'm never gonna meet the man.
not with that attitude.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try and get him on this show.
Let's do it
Next week.
I'm gonna do
next
it right
week.
now. I'm gonna tweet at him.
Hey,
All right.
you don't know unless you ask.
Do people still use Twitter? Is that a
I don't
thing?
know. Well, not anymore because it's called X now.
Yeah, I'll never.
What is
Yeah.
a tweet now? Like if you send out a tweet, if it's X, it's no longer a tweet. So
You send out an X.
yeah, like or that's the company name.
My favorite one is the
Are you
X
doing a
video
tweet?
because when it comes up a link when you're scrolling through and you see X video, and I'm like, what the heck is on my feed? And then that's what the name for Twitter, Twitter videos now.
You don't want to click that, especially
Yeah,
not
I'm
around
just like, what
family.
the hell is going on with my timeline here? Like,
Hey, I'll be right back.
okay, you got him on the phone.
He just got in touch with
Yeah,
Kyle.
I had to make a call.
It's terrible timing. I was actually about to try and wrap this up since 9/11. But
Not
know.
alone. But we can talk about Birmingham Stallions won this week. AJ McCarron's Battlehawks got beat because of a 64-yard game-winning field goal.
Yep, that was the
That was
only
nuts.
XFL team to win, and apparently that guy didn't hit 64 yards one time. He hit it twice because they tried to ice him, and he drilled them both.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that guy might, depending on what his chip shots and whatnot look like going forward, might have himself a job in the NFL going forward because 64 twice in a row is nothing to sneeze at.
Nope, it is not.
Uh,
And especially at an end of the game like that.
yeah,
Whew.
yeah. I mean, like clutch kicking. And I think I can't remember where he went to college, but he was a kickoff specialist. He didn't even kick field goals. I don't think he'd kicked a field goal since he was in high
It was
school.
in high school. I remember saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you got a leg like that and now you can hone it in from 64 and bomb it like that, once again, can you make the 30s and the extra points and all that? Like, if you can do all that consistently, probably wrote himself a big check for the NFL eventually. But once again, consistency is the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you can bomb it and got lucky twice, that doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
If you line up from 35
and how often are you
consistently
really
hook
going
it.
to attempt a 60-yarder? It's mostly going to
Exactly.
be 40
and in,
and in is usually probably the most.
I don't know. I'm curious to see. But as far as the UFL goes, how did you feel about the Stallions' performance?
I thought it was pretty good. Matt Corral did surprise me a little bit. He seemed to start off a little nervous, but he picked it up. The offensive line, even though one of our starting guards is out now on injured reserve,
Oh
the
no!
offensive line looks great. and then the defense looks even better than it did last year because the defense was in like I think they were in the bottom, closer to the bottom of the league, but their red zone defense was like at the very top. There were a lot of games where it was like, goal line stands, things like the other team would have the ball on like get the ball at the 10 and drive it all the way down to the 1 and they'd be goal line stand. So like statistic wise, their defense wasn't really very good, but they were just so good in the red zone.
As
But
a man who go ahead.
but they look a lot better even this year.
Yeah, as a man who's followed the USFL and now the UFL, and I'm sure you dabbled with the XFL a little bit. Are you thinking that the Stallions can three-peat this bitch?
Oh yeah, I think so.
What are
Yeah.
some of the expectations as far as changes to the game? You've been a Stallions guy since the emergence, but what are you expecting to change with the new format, if anything?
I really don't see it changing much because and it may go back to more like a 2022 because that was when it was just the USFL, but like all the you're talking about two leagues that had 8 teams each that combined just to make 8 teams. There's a lot of good players out there that have a lot of experience. So I
I was
think
kind
it'll
of
be
bummed about that.
yeah, I was actually a little more than a little bummed. But
Well, and did you ever hear like a purpose, like what that was about, like why they didn't just? Well, I mean, obviously
Cashish.
I think it
obviously
just
that's the
it came down
answer,
to
but
money. And I think that was the biggest thing was the money.
You got to pay them all, not just the players, but travel, staffing, coaches.
Well, that's why I don't understand why if they could have done another kind of hub system like the USFL always did. But the way they do it is all the teams during the week stay in I think it's not Houston, I think. It's either San Antonio or Houston one. All the teams are there. They practice there and then they fly out to their market.
That seems
Whereas
more expensive.
Whereas the hub, it's like last year USFL, it was in Birmingham, it was in Memphis, Detroit, and in Canton. And then each hub had 2 teams, and the 2 teams stayed there and they practiced there.
It also seems like it really helps out whatever field or fields that they're sharing. Now
Yeah.
you got 8 teams sharing. Houston's if it's Houston or San Antonio, I know Houston's like the 4th or 5th largest city in the states, so massive place. But I can't imagine they've allocated more than a few fields at least, and then having multiple professional football teams play on them. I'd cry myself to sleep as a groundskeeper.
or
Yeah.
maybe you love that situation.
Hey, it keeps you in a job.
Yeah, you're like hell yeah,
Yeah.
I get to go to work today.
I'm gonna get overtime.
Yeah, we get plenty of the OT, no doubt.
Ooh, I need a new pool.
Did you already talk about Matt Corral?
Just a little bit.
Just
He
brushed on it.
he looked a little nervous to start off with, but he ended up playing pretty damn well.
Well, and
Uh,
I wasn't even aware that he had gotten the job in Birmingham, and I thought when I saw that that's who there was there, I thought, okay, we'll see where that goes. I thought that he deserved more of a chance when he was with Carolina, but look, I'm happy to have him. It's
Yeah,
just wasn't
I
gonna.
I I was a little Yeah, I mean, I love joking on the SIP, so I'm like, oh god, an old piss quarterback's coming. But no, yeah, I think he's gonna fit in just good. Because it surprised a lot of Stallions fans that Jamar Smith was actually downgraded to the third string quarterback. Yeah,
That's
they did.
the guy that's been there.
That's the guy that in 2022 led us to a championship.
Right. So he's downgraded behind
Adrian
Corral
Martinez and
and
Corral.
Martinez.
But Adrian Martinez did seem to get a little hurt. He actually got 1.5 series because he ended up hurting himself.
He
But
sure can run.
he can, like he can run it. I just don't know much about his passing.
I
'Cause
don't think anybody does.
He did throw an interception in the end zone. So
Actually, okay. Now, addendum. I think we actually kind of all know about his passing.
Where did he transfer to? He was at Nebraska forever, then transferred to where?
Kansas State.
Right. And then at Kansas State, it was like this different quarterback. Like what I had watched at Nebraska, all of a sudden this guy was like, "Oh, you're legit now." Okay.
Yeah.
Or at least for me. I mean, there's probably people out there who are big Adrian Martinez fans, but for me, I was like, "Okay, you're just who you are at Nebraska," and then get to Kansas State and it seems to pop off. I didn't anticipate him having a career after college, but
Yeah.
good, you know.
Hey, Luis Perez probably didn't think so either.
Hey,
But he's been in every single spring league.
well,
He scored the first touchdown in like 3 different spring leagues.
and Sean McVay is a huge fan. Like guy really liked that cat. You never know. Well, and that's the thing. I think that's one of the fun things about the spring league, and I'm hoping and feeling pretty confident that we've settled into something that's going to be sustained.
Yeah.
Again, hopeful, but I feel pretty good about it. But just these guys that you don't really anticipate being much, getting to go. I mean, I love that AJ McCarron like wants to be a battle hawk. Like I think that's a cool part of the league. You know.
Well, that's one of those things that I wish would happen more. Like older guys in the league, like or guys that have been floated around on rosters, but just haven't really. They've had better people in front of them. Hey, you're going to be in the league like 2 more years. Once you go down, you'll be the number 1 guy when you get there. Day 1.
Yeah, like I mean, and it's cool for us as fans, especially Stallions fans. Like
Yeah,
the venue there is great. I mean, we've watched games there together, and I think that we all have a high opinion of Protective for right stadium.
Protective.
Yeah.
I get
think
it mixed up with Progressive.
right. When I said Protective, I was like, that is right. Anyway, but yeah, I think we all have an opinion of the stadium and a high opinion of the surrounding area, like what's going on in Birmingham right now. And obviously, it's really great to have consecutive championship teams.
Yeah, that does help a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, I see like a lot of promise, especially in our area for this, and it's cool to have that environment. And then for these guys that like McCarron, Normie, I've been bragging on your comparison of JJ McCarthy to McCarron for since you said it, just because it hits like it's like yes, that is exactly who I see this guy being. Is he a bad quarterback? No, he's not a bad quarterback. Is he going to come into your NFL program and be this like franchise saver? No, he's not. And he's just not. And that's where AJ is. Could AJ be on could he be a backup for any program in the NFL? Absolutely. Would you feel comfortable with AJ McCarron coming in and not losing you games for a couple of games? Sure, probably. But guess where he gets to go be like a star and like one of the better players this league. And I think that's cool. I think that's great. And then
it makes the league better.
It makes the league better. I mean, when who else is playing in this league that are who's the
Reuben
cat?
Foster.
Yeah, he's exactly who I was looking for. Reuben Foster is playing in this league. Like you have these huge names, huge NFL names that are, for whatever reason, didn't land where they need to be. But I mean, you've got them all over the league. I think it's healthy and fun, and it's what's going to be, or I think that's what's going to lead to a spring league sticking is these guys saying, you know what, I can't make the millions to do the big job, but I can come down here and make the, I don't know,
Good money.
thousands. I mean, yeah, I don't know what they're making, but more than me, I assume.
Yep. I mean, I haven't checked the salaries recently and I don't know how they did it too, because a lot of these guys will be like their third year and so they'll get a higher pay for being veterans. But I think it's worth it if you're an older guy. You got your money. Have some fun now.
Yeah, I mean, go and you can go dominate. Like some of
Yeah.
these guys are like the type of, like some of these guys that could trickle down are the type that would dominate in this league even at an older age. And I don't know how much of that we'll eventually see, but I do think that, like, I'm with you. I would want them to do that. If you're older, you're not getting what you want. Like Zeke Elliott right now, right? Like, obviously he's not dropping down to the UFL. Most recent information about him was that he's flirting with going back to Dallas. But just he went from being one of the top 3, 4, 5 guys at the running back position in the league, and then just fell off. I mean, and that just that happens to running backs. It just does. You go to New England, you punch in a few touchdowns, and then now Dallas is without a running back, so of course they're interested in bringing you back. Also put a pin in that I saw that Derrick Henry said that Dallas didn't reach out to him at all. Classic Dallas.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like you just as if you're Zeke Elliott, like you know that your time in this league is dwindling. But what could you go down to this level of football? And not to take away from this level of football, obviously these guys are good at their jobs. That game that we were at last year, fellas, was one of the funnest football games that I've been to in person. And was that last year? 2 years ago?
It was last year.
Last year. Yeah, it was one of the funnest football games I've been to. Like just these guys have it too. Like it's not that I'm not saying that Zeke can just come down and dominate, but Zeke can come down and be better than what he's going to be this next year in the NFL, you know? And maybe there's a path for eventually the older players to start to trickle down like that. Maybe there's a path for some of these younger guys to perform in this league heavily. Mm-hmm. I mean, who's the cat that ended up on Green Bay's roster last year?
Alex McGee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, I mean, and of that game, like he played a fantastic game, that game that we watched and, or that we were at. And, you know, that, so maybe there's a merger of older players from the NFL not getting the snaps that they want coming down and younger players fighting for a chance to get into the NFL that just missed it because of, you know, where they played college or whatever the situation may be. But I think it's got good legs, dude. Like I think that spring football is here to stay for the first time in a long time.
I definitely hope so. I definitely do. Well, boys, it's getting on late in the evening. We all three have to wake up early. It's about time to hit that dusty old trail. Any final thoughts?
Dusty trail.
Real quick, I would like to mention Auburn's A-Day this weekend, and just quickly, just the points to think about. Peyton Thorne is touted as going, or Hugh Freeze has said that he's in the pole position as far as going into fall camp, but it's not that the gap isn't that far. So pay attention to what happens at the quarterback position. I'd say look at Cam Coleman, the 5-star freshman receiver. Auburn has not had a receiver touted this way in my existence, to my knowledge. So we're looking at having like a legit guy. And then the secondary is we're replacing 4 out of 5 starters. Those would just be some some talking points, some watching points if anybody out there is going to watch the A-Day game.
Well, no, the 8A game's later.
It's Saturday at 1.
No, it's not on Saturday. It's in a couple weeks. The 8A game. Now the
Oh,
Auburn spring game is this Saturday.
oh my God! Go watch your Final Four. You fuck.
I'm sorry, I have to take that one in because it's so hard to get him. Santana is so hard to get. Usually, I mean, he usually picks up on it like immediately. So
Yeah, I missed that one hard.
That won't always be.
I
I
do
always have that one right here.
But
Well, we've got it recorded.
Hey, yep.
God damn it. Bama's is next weekend.
Yeah, not this up. Like,
think
yeah,
so,
not yeah.
Okay.
They're always generally Auburn first, Bama second on spring games, and
I don't know how,
a week apart.
I don't know how generally that is. I've seen them on the same day many a times.
Over the head, we have the receipts.
Fucking shit.
All righty. Well, it's been fun. Thank you for everybody who watched. Thank you, Albiona, for commenting in the chat. It really does help. And if you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll get a notification every time we go live. And I think that's about it. We'll see everybody next week. Y'all have a good one.
We'll see you guys.